This past weekend, the 5th Captain America MCU project released into theaters. Today I'm going to rank all 5 MCU Captain America projects. Alright, before we get started, just let's make sure we're clarifying what projects I'm going to rank. The 3 Captain America movies, Captain America, First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and Civil War, and then Brave New World and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the 5 Captain America projects. And then I'm not doing the old Captain America movies because I just didn't want to watch them at all, so I decided to keep it strictly to the MCU. And also, if you're watching this video, go check out my poll and vote on which other video you guys want that's MCU related, because it's at a 3-way tie right now, and I am waiting for somebody to change the vote so I can figure out which video is coming out. So if you're watching this one, go check that out. With that said, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what is your ranking of the Captain America projects. You can include the old 2 ones, or you could include everything in the MCU. And with that in mind, go ahead and get started with this ranking. Number 5, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I am devastated that I had to put that this low. Because when the show first came out, 2021, I just started my first YouTube channel, Zachary Movie Chat. The first YouTube channel I had, I switched over to this one this year. And, I did weekly reviews. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was been a hot take for years that this was a fantastic show while everybody didn't like it. Rewatching it this past week, it's bad. What? How did it turn from a show that I adored to a show that is just bad? And it's a script problem. I probably shouldn't have done the First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War binge back to back to back, and then watched Brave New World and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because it's definitely a script problem. Is the problem Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie? No, their chemistry is fantastic and they hold the laughs here. Is the problem the action sequences? No, the action sequences are good enough. The problem is we have so much potential. We have so many characters, so many ideas that are interesting. And they don't work because of the script. Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smasher. Such an interesting idea to make villains that are mad that half the universe came back. That's an interesting idea. They're mad because everything that happened while everybody was gone, it affected them. Their lives became better, and everyone else's lives were gone. And then they came back, and everything is turned back to the way it was. That's an interesting idea. How's it executed? You have Carly Morgenthau complaining constantly, 6 times an episode. We need to show these government guys that we're the good guys and that we want our lives back, giving little speeches throughout. Again, it's telling us and not showing us. John Walker, who I really like because I really like Wyatt Russell, and I do still like him, but his character was interesting for 3 episodes. Then we get to episode 4, and what do they decide to do with this character? They decide to make him, we got beat. I don't have a super soldier serum. I need super soldier serum. Give me super soldier serum. And it's they're telling us instead of showing us the arcs here. Instead of a well-rounded out John Walker arc, what they do with his character is make him complain, I want super soldier serum, so I'm going to get super soldier serum. Instead of the idea, if he didn't have these scenes where he's just sitting around talking about the super soldier serum, and you just had a scene where he walks up and picks up the one remaining one, then you got the thought in the back of your head, and then when Battlestar dies, you can think, oh, he's going to take the super soldier serum. That is a character arc there, instead of just telling us over and over again that he wants super soldier serum. Same thing with Carly Morgenthau. If you just had anything else but then just monologues, her character would be so interesting. But I just couldn't get interested because constantly each episode is a monologue. Characters monologuing, saying, oh, the government's bad. It is so preachy. It is unbelievably preachy, this show. I think that there are plenty of ideas here, but there are way too many ideas to cram in here. You get the Isaiah plot line in here, and it doesn't merge with the rest of the show. The rest of the show is about stopping the Flag Smashers And what does he add to the show? He doesn't add anything to the show because he's just there to add some race metaphor, which I used to thought was handled well when I was like 13 or 15 maybe. I think this is where I was when the show first came out. Now I was 19. That's not how you handle a character arc, and he was just so unnecessary and forced into the show. And with that said, also the inclusion of Baron Zemo. I found myself at the end of episode 2 where they said there's one person that could figure this out. And then he said, Baron Zemo? What? No. So you're telling me that John Walker, a government official, is so bad, you'll break out Baron Zemo, the guy that completely brainwashed you in Civil War. And you're going to break him out and trust him, but you're not going to trust the actual government. Okay. It is unbelievable. So you tell us and don't show us. You have unbelievably bad decisions. The script is a huge issue with this show. And it canceled out all the good stuff. All the action. All the characters that should work here. And they don't work because the script is so bad. It is an unbelievably bad script. And I cannot believe that they made this script into the show. And for me, when I was 15, I loved the show. Now, I'm not a big fan of it. Number 4, Brave New World. We're going to bring this one up. I do think this one is solid. I think that it is a little bit, it's mid at best. Because I was not expecting much from the show. I wanted it to be good, but I wasn't fully expecting much from the show. Wasn't sure what I would think about it. And I'm just happy that I liked it. I thought there were definitely issues here, a lot of them involving the script because they brought back the same guys from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I do think the script here is better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but you still have a lot of that tell us and don't show us, where like you have the leader monologuing, saying, this is how I figured this out, instead of like showing us through the actual movie. You just have us pause through the dialogue there. But I found it watchable. I like Anthony Mackie. I liked him as Captain America. I like the action sequences. I think they work. The Red Hulk fight I thought was particularly good. And the story was interesting. It wasn't a great story, but it brought back some of that espionage type movie that Winter Soldier and Civil War had. So I don't think it's great, but it's watchable. And it's surprising that it was watchable enough that I liked it. Because I could totally see a world where this could turn into an Ant-Man and the Wasp type situation. I could also see a world where this movie is much better than it actually is. Where this could, number 1, be Falcon and the Winter Soldier Season 2. It would be a better season than the first season, but it could be a Falcon and the Winter Soldier Season 2. And then, at the same time, it also kind of feels like a Disney Plus original movie, where it doesn't really feel like a theatrical release. It feels like you could just sit down and watch this on Disney Plus one day. So while it's watchable, while it's fine, it definitely does have its issues, and there is a world where this movie is better than it actually was. But hey, it's mid, it's watchable, and the Red Hulk fight scene rocks. Number 3, Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to have this one higher up on the list than number 3. Let's be clear. It's Falcon and the Winter Soldier way down here, and then just a little bit up, it's Brave New World, and then Winter Soldier is up here, like up to the top of the screen. I really like Winter Soldier. I think it is a really good Marvel movie, but it has a couple things that hold it back from being great for me. For one, I love the story here. I love the spy espionage stuff. The stuff about Hydra taking over S.H.I.E.L.D. adds an interesting idea here, where you have Captain America and you have the government that we're supposed to trust, and now they're collapsing at the hands of Hydra, bringing back from the original Captain America movie. And it is just a great story. It is one of the best story arcs in the overall MCU. I think works. This is the first movie directed by the Russo brothers inside the MCU, and I think they do a really good job here with the story as well as the action sequences. I think are handled really well in this movie. Some of the best action in the MCU, whether you get the beginning car chase with Nick Fury, to you get the highway car scene with the Winter Soldier and Captain America. And the Winter Soldier is really, really cool. That's another thing, is the villain in the Winter Soldier is really cool, and every time he's on screen, he has such this massive screen presence. And combine that with some awesome action sequences and awesome spy story, I really do enjoy this one. This also feels like an Avengers level movie, while also being a Captain America sequel. You get the stuff with Armin Zola as you're figuring out what he has planned for this all, and the stuff with Hydra taking over S.H.I.E.L.D., but you also have the Avengers threat and setting up later Marvel movies while telling a perfect story here. And it really is peak MCU script. When we talk about the other movies in the script, were not good. The script in this movie and the other movies are really, really good. Problem with this movie is it's exhausting. Like, it is a lot to handle. It's 2.5 hours. It's fast-paced spy espionage, and so much happens that it kind of helped that every time I watch this movie, I kind of feel a little exhausted. Doesn't change the fact that I still really like it, but being exhausted after watching this movie definitely changes the fact and holds it back from being that all-star MCU movie from a 10 out of 10 to being a 8.5 out of 10. It's an 8.5 out of 10 movie for me, and I think if the movie was paced a little bit better, I feel like it would hit that next spot and move up a spot on this list. My number 2, Captain America, the First Avenger. This takes me back to a time where even before Phase 2 or Phase 3, where the MCU was something special, we were still learning what the cinematic universe was. And while growing up, personally for me, I grew up in a Christian family. I really was never allowed to watch the Captain America movies due to religion and my family being religious and me being like not old enough to handle the effect from this movie. I found it weird when I was a kid, but parents' rules, right? So even when I first started to watch the Captain America movies, I was never a fan of really any of these movies, and so this was the one I always found the worst. I never was really a big fan of this movie, and rewatching it last year and then rewatching it in preparation for Brave New World, I just found again that it took me back to a time where you didn't quite know what the MCU was doing. You didn't quite know anything about what was happening after this movie. And even though I did when I was a kid, like, it takes me back to a time, to a nostalgic feeling, where with, like, even Winter Soldier and Civil War, they're different movies. Like, they're movies that you kind of know a little bit of what to expect going into the movie, just because of we have so many other Marvel movies, you kind of get a feeling for it. This one takes you back to where you didn't have that feeling for it. It's fresh, it's original, it's got a distinct vibe to it, the action sequences are great, and at its core is just a great hero story. Steve Rogers is a fantastic origin story, and it just really inspires. It's an inspiring origin story. We don't get much like that anymore. And while movies in the MCU are definitely better than this one, even later movies, there's not many movies that give off a distinct vibe like this. A vibe of hope. The overall story gives a vibe of hope. It immerses you into this world, while also being more unique than anything else in the MCU was. So rewatching this movie, I was very surprised at actually how good the movie was. Growing up, never a fan of it. And now, I'm such a fan of this movie. I think it is really, really good and one of the best MCU origin stories. And that's just a little bit what pushes above Winter Soldier, the more uniqueness. It's more of a unique movie than, say, The Winter Soldier. And while The Winter Soldier is good, it's really, really good, it's a little different. It's even more unique, I'd say, than Civil War, which is my number 1. I'd say that it's a little bit more unique than that just because of the distinct vibe it has. And I really, really love the movie because of that vibe. But let's talk about my number 1, which is Captain America Civil War. I adore this movie. It is a perfect movie from start to finish. It has all of the great things that the Russos do with The Winter Soldier, with all the action, the brutal nature of it, the able to be an Avengers-style story, while also being a Captain America sequel, a Captain America cap-off to the trilogy, while also setting up more for the MCU. It's able to do all of that while perfecting it. It's very long, it has all these action sequences, but it doesn't exhaust you. It doesn't make you feel exhausted by the time the film ends. And that's just because it always finds something to keep you fresh and original. It has so many plot lines in here, but they're all handled perfectly. You got the Avengers plot line, and then you also have the Winter Soldier plot line, where you're finding out there's multiple Winter Soldiers, the Baron Zemo stuff. Speaking of Baron Zemo, he is a phenomenal villain. Baron Zemo, one of the best villains in the MCU, where he's literally just trying to break up the Avengers because his family died, which is kind of a big deal. But Zemo doesn't want world domination. He wants revenge for his family. And then, like, a sequence that comes to mind is in the end where he's about to shoot himself. And Black Panther stops him from doing that, proving that he won't get his way. He failed while also succeeding, and is perfect there. Also, speaking of Black Panther, this movie is able to introduce so many heroes and being flawless. Like I said, so many plot lines. You got Spider-Man being introduced, Black Panther being introduced, and not a single time throughout the entire movie does it ever feel rushed. It feels perfectly paced out. You have the sequences for the Captain America story, the Avengers story. Everything works in the film. It is a film that in 2.5 hours should be nearly impossible to pull off. And yet they do it in such a perfect manner. Phenomenal action sequences in here. I love the opening sequence on the highway chase. I absolutely adore the ending Captain America fight. The airport fight, I think, is phenomenal. And so this is just a movie that, despite having so many plotlines, so many characters, it's able to set up the rest of the MCU while also finishing off the Captain America and Winter Soldier storyline. And it works so perfectly, so flawlessly. The Russos literally perfected what they did in the Winter Soldier. So that was my ranking of all 5 MCU Captain America films. Make sure to leave your ranking down below in the comment section. And while you're down there, go over to my channel and vote on the poll to determine what other MCU movie video is coming out this week. And with that said, subscribe.